All right, number 6. So when I see a problem like this, the very first thing I'm going to do is factor out completely the top and the bottom of my rational function. All right, but the top right, it's already factored out, so I'm going to factor the bottom out. So x squared minus 3x minus 10, if you use the xbox method, you will get that it is equal to x minus 5 times x plus 2. All right, now that's the equation I'm going to be working with most of these attributes, okay? So first, I have to find the 0. So how do I find the 0? Does anybody know? Set the top factors equal to 0. So 2x squared equals 0. So if I were to actually work it out, it would be 2x squared equals 0. First, I would have to divide by 2, which gives me x squared equals 0. Then I will square root both sides. And so x equals what?
0.
X equals 0. That's the x value on my 0, which means my 0 is 0, comma 0. Alright, so that's how I find the 0. Okay, so I'm going to graph that point, 0, 0, boom, right there. And then the horizontal asymptote is y equals 2, so I'll graph that. Vertical asymptote, do you know how to find the vertical asymptote? Set the bottom factors equal to 0. My bottom factors here are x minus 5 and x plus 2, right? So I'll take each of those and set it equal to 0. X minus 5 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. So what are my vertical asymptotes?
X plus 5, x equals plus 5, x equals 2.
Right, x equals positive 5 and x equals negative 2. Those are my two vertical asymptotes. X equals 5 and x equals negative 2. Alright, so now I will graph the vertical asymptotes. Whoa. Where did they go? Alright, well. Technical to x equals. Alright, please stop. Alright, x equals negative 2 is. Just zoom out here. Right here. And x equals 5 is 3, 4, 5 right here. So notice this is a problem with 3 regions, right? So this is going to be one of the little trickier to graph. But let's find the rest of the attributes. So are there any holes on this graph? No, why? Yeah, we didn't cancel anything out in the original fraction, so there's no holes. We write none. And then how do I find the y-intercept? Right, set x equal to 0 on this fraction. So notice though, if you plug in 0, the top's going to equal 0, right? And 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. So the y-intercept will be 0, 0. Remember also, if your x-intercept is 0, 0, the y-intercept also is going to be 0, 0 because look at see this point right here? It's on the x-axis, but it's also on the y-axis. Yes, so that's why it's going to be both x-intercept and y-intercept. All right, and then now for the domain, what's the domain going to be? X is not equal to 5 and negative 2, right? And that came from where? The vertical asymptote. Very good. So now we just have to graph this. And so what do I need to do to graph this middle section here? We need to graph the middle section first, and then we'll find the branches on the sides. But first, how would I graph the middle section? I have one point right there. But how do I find that? What?
Do we pick a point from the left and then right?
Yeah, so you can pick up. Really, it doesn't matter the fact that it's to the left of this point or to the right of this point. You just need 3 points that are separate from each other to see what shape it is, right? So, can somebody pick an x value here? 2. So if we pick an x value of 2, that's telling me that I will use 2 as my x value, right? And then I need to find the y value for 2. So to find that, I'll take the 2 and plug it into this equation up here. Or the original equation works too. So if I'll use the original equation. So if I plug in 2 to the original equation, it'll be 2 times 2 squared over 2 squared minus 3 times 2 minus 10, which is 8 over 4 minus 6, negative 2 minus negative 12, which is negative 2 over 3. So that means when I plug in 2, right here, you see at the bottom? I plug in 2, my y value ends up being what? Negative 2/3. That was the whole point of solving that, right? So that means here's a point. 2 comma negative 2/3. Which would be, which would be about right here. All right, so let's pick a point that's to the left of this point now. So what is an x value? There's only one that you can really choose here. 1 is not to the left of this original point. Negative 1, right? Negative 1. So negative 1 will be my x value, and we have to find the y value, right? So let's plug negative 1 into this equation. Please stop floating around. Plug in negative 1 into my original equation, and that would be 2 times negative 1 squared over negative 1 squared minus 3 times negative 1 minus 10, which is going to be 2 over 1 plus 3, which is 4, minus 10, negative 6, which reduces to negative 1/3. So when I plug in negative 1 as my x value, the y value is negative 1/3. That's right. So negative 1, negative 1/3 is a point. So now I can see what shape it is. So as Brent said, it is a parabola. You see this? It's kind of U-shaped.
Wait, Coach Q, for the dot for 2 comma negative 2 over 3.
Oh, that's way off. Sorry. My bad. As you were saying that, I was like, wait a second. Yeah, negative 2/3 is right there. Whoops. I went like 2 1/3. All right, so that's the idea right there, okay? There's the middle. So now I got to find the 2 other curves. So some people are forgetting to actually draw the rest of the curves. So how do I find the rest of the curves? Yeah. So you can't really assume that, but you can tell because remember it's based on the exponent on these factors, right? So what's the exponent on each of these factors? It's a 1 because there's nothing there, right? Which means it's an odd exponent. And if it's an odd exponent, does it go in the same direction around the asymptote or opposite? Opposite, that's right. So then now, if we just look at the asymptote, you see on the x equals negative 2 asymptote, it's going down on this side, right? So on the other side, it should be going. So I just draw an up arrow. But then look, if I draw an up arrow, right, it must curve down and avoid this horizontal asymptote. Same thing with the x equals 5. You see the exponent on x minus 5 is 1, so it's going to go the opposite direction. On the left side of here is going down, so on the right side of the asymptote it should be going up. So up arrow, and then look, it's got to curve around, so there it is. So your assumption was right, but just to make sure, right, you want to know what you're doing actually. And so this is what the graph is going to look like, and that we've finally completed number 6.